The message arrived at 11:47 in the morning, yet something about it made Rowan Vale's heart feel as if the world had suddenly gone silent. He was sitting alone at his small kitchen table, staring at an unpaid electricity bill and a cup of coffee that had already gone cold, when his phone buzzed. It was from his neighbor, Seraphina Cole, the quiet woman who lived across the hall and rarely spoke more than a few words to anyone. The message contained a private photograph, but it wasn't what Rowan expected. It was a picture of a hand-painted canvas lying beneath a window, filled with soft golden light, wildflowers, and a lonely woman sitting beneath an old tree. Underneath it, Seraphina had written only one sentence, "Do you think it's beautiful?" Rowan stared at the image for several seconds, then looked toward the thin wall separating their apartments. He knew Seraphina was beautiful, but the photograph wasn't really about beauty. Somehow, he sensed she was asking whether she was still capable of creating something beautiful after everything life had taken from her. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can give people a second chance, please like this story, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. Sometimes one small act of kindness can change a life in ways we never imagine. Rowan had lived in apartment 3B for almost 2 years. He was a single father raising his 8-year-old daughter, Amara, after losing his wife in a sudden illness. Every morning was a battle between school lunches, bus schedules, work deadlines, and the quiet ache of an empty chair at the breakfast table. He worked as a maintenance technician during the day and delivered groceries in the evening whenever he could find extra shifts. Money was always tight, but Rowan never complained in front of Amara. He wanted his daughter to remember childhood as a place of warmth, not a place where she learned to count overdue bills. Seraphina lived across the hall in apartment 3A. Rowan had noticed her many times, usually carrying grocery bags or returning from work with her eyes lowered. She was polite, but distant. There was something fragile about her, as though she had learned to build invisible walls around herself. After receiving her photograph, Rowan answered honestly. He told her that the painting was beautiful because it felt alive, and because the lonely woman beneath the tree looked as though she was waiting for the sun to return. Seraphina replied almost immediately, saying that nobody had ever described her painting that way. Rowan smiled at the screen and told her that perhaps people had simply never taken the time to look closely. What he didn't know was that those words would stay with Seraphina for months. The next morning, Rowan found a small envelope outside his door. Inside was a handwritten note thanking him for seeing something in her painting that she had been unable to see herself. That afternoon, he learned from the building manager that Seraphina had once been an art teacher. She had stopped painting after her younger sister died unexpectedly. The loss had broken something inside her, and eventually she had stopped teaching, stopped exhibiting her work, and almost stopped speaking to people altogether. The painting Rowan had seen was the first one she had completed in nearly 3 years. Days passed, and their friendship quietly grew. There were no dramatic declarations, no sudden romance. Instead, there were small things. Seraphina sometimes left fresh bread outside Rowan's door. Rowan fixed the loose cabinet handle in her kitchen. Amara began visiting Seraphina after school to show her drawings, and Seraphina would patiently praise every crooked house and oversized flower Amara created. Slowly, the hallway that had once felt cold began to feel like a shared home. Then one afternoon, Rowan came home and noticed Seraphina sitting alone on the stairs, holding a letter. Her hands were trembling. She had received an offer from a prestigious gallery to display her paintings, but she was terrified. She believed the invitation had been a mistake. She thought her work was no longer good enough. Rowan sat beside her without asking unnecessary questions. He simply reminded her that the first painting she had shown him had been created when she thought nobody cared about her art anymore. Yet somehow, that painting had made a lonely man stop and feel hope. Seraphina finally accepted the gallery invitation. Weeks later, the exhibition opened. Rowan arrived with Amara wearing the nicest clothes they owned. The gallery walls were covered with Seraphina's paintings, each one telling a story of grief, loneliness, courage, and renewal. At the center of the room hung the painting she had sent Rowan that morning. Beneath it was a small title, "The Day Someone Looked Closely." Rowan stood in front of it, speechless. Seraphina approached him with tears in her eyes. She told him that when she sent that photograph, she wasn't really asking whether the painting was beautiful. She was asking whether there was still something beautiful left inside her. Rowan looked at her and understood then that sometimes people don't need someone to rescue them. They simply need someone willing to remind them that they are not broken beyond repair. Months later, Seraphina's paintings became successful, but she never forgot the little apartment hallway where everything had begun. Rowan's life didn't suddenly become perfect either. Bills still came. Parenting was still exhausting. Grief still visited him sometimes. But now there was laughter in his kitchen again. Amara had someone to show her drawings to, Rowan had someone who understood the silence he carried, and Seraphina had finally found the courage to open the door she had kept closed for years. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who may need encouragement, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. Your support helps stories like this reach people who might be quietly struggling and simply waiting for someone to remind them that better days can still come. And before we end, I have one special request. Please comment one word, beautiful, if you believe everyone deserves a second chance to heal, dream, and begin again. Because sometimes the most important question someone asks isn't really about a painting, a photograph, or even beauty. Sometimes when a wounded person asks, "Do you think it's beautiful?" what they are really asking is, "Can you still see something worth loving in me?" And sometimes, the kindest answer is simply to look closely, stay a little longer, and remind them that even after the darkest season, there can still be light waiting to enter through the window.